almost 100 years ago. And he says there are multiple points where Satan can attack believers. And each of his tactics, Nursi calls stratagem, desise, satanic stratagem, desise-i şeytaniye. That is the expression he uses. He identifies six big ones. Basically, if you are a believer, if you are a practicing Muslim, you should be aware of these six satanic tactics. So far, we have covered first three of them. Let's quickly remember what they were. The first satanic stratagem was the desire for rank and position. Hubbujah, desire for rank and position. And Bediüzzaman explains how Satan can use this trick against you to stop you from doing good deeds. The second satanic tactic, according to Bediüzzaman, is fear. How Satan can play this card against you, scare you to stop you from doing good deeds. His خوف, fear. And the third one we discussed, we read about last month, is greed. So how not being happy with what you have, instead asking for more and more, being greedy, may easily risk of your integrity. That brings us the fourth satanic tactic. That is racism. I call this tactic racism, but Bediüzzaman, we're gonna read the text in a minute. He says nationalist feelings, asabiyet milliye, but it translates roughly to racism. How Satan can play this card one another against one another. This has only recently happened in our local community. It's an international mosque I'm attending to. And some people might want to call it some particular mosque like Arab mosque or Syrian mosque or Kurdish mosque, etc. And the Imam came up to khutbah and he says, no, this is not anybody's mosque. This is everybody's mosque, and no one is superior to anyone else. And even within the mosque context, you can see how relevant this is. Playing even Muslims one against another, telling them, look, you are superior because you're from this race. He's inferior because he is from that part of the world. It is very dangerous. No one is superior to another simply based on their skin color, where they happen to born, you didn't choose, or where their ancestral lineage come from. Could be European, African, Asian. When I say Asian, it is massive. It can be Central Asian, Southeast Asian. It could be anything. It is very relevant, and even from personal experience, this happened not long ago, only last Friday, I think. Because I'm a Risale-i Nur student, uh, everything I witness, I just apply Risale-i Nur filter. I said, "Ooh, that is something Bediüzzaman talks about in the lecture series we are going through." So the fourth stratagem is racism in a nutshell. but we would like to stick to the original text. It might be slightly longer than Greed. Greed was only 2 pages. We went through fairly quickly. So without further ado, I'm gonna crack on and read what Nursi wrote. So let me bring my screen and hopefully you can see it's on my bigger screen. I'm gonna be reading from them. So the fourth satanic stratagem. Stratagem is a tactic. In order to deceive my brothers and excite their nationalist feelings, certain irreligious people who occupy high positions attack me with their propaganda. At the prompting of Satan and suggestions of the people of misguidance, they say this: You are Turks, thanks be to God. Among the Turks are religious scholars and people of perfection of every sort. Said Nursi is a Kurd. To work along with someone who does not share your nationality is unpatriotic. They say you shouldn't be hanging out with this man because he is not from your race. This is unpatriotic. Probably another popular word you are hearing every day. What is patriotic? What is unpatriotic? Should I choose someone from my race even though he's an evil person? Should I turn away from someone really nice because he's not from my race? What is patriotic? The answer: You miserable person without religion. All praise to be God be to God. I'm a Muslim. At all times, there are 350 million members. Mind you, this was written 100 years ago. So the population of Muslims were like 350 million. So it's a lot more these days. Of my sacred nation. So the first clue, according to Bediüzzaman, being a member of Muslim nation is a higher identity. So this is my first lesson. He says, I'm a Muslim. There are 350 million, well over a billion these days, members of my sacred nation, sacred nation. So the first conclusion is being a Muslim is a higher identity, according to Bediüzzaman. I seek refuge with God 100,000 times from sacrificing for the idea of racialism, racism, and negative nationalism, 350 million brothers who enjoy an eternal brotherhood and who help me with their prayers, and among whom are the vast majority of Kurds. And I seek refuge with God from gaining in place of those innumerable blessed brothers a few who have embarked on a way that is without religion or belongs to no school of law, who bear the name of Kurd and are reckoned to belong to the Kurdish people. O you without religion, there would have to have been some idiots like you who would abandon the everlasting brotherhood of luminous beneficial community of 350 million true brothers to gain the brotherhood which even in this world is without benefit of a handful of Hungarian Astaghfirullah, Hungarian infidels, because Hungarians and Turks are brothers. Did you know this? Probably you didn't. They are the same race. Hungary, in the middle of Europe, and Turks, they are genetically, historically connected. at some point, somebody said, "Oh, I prefer Turkish brothers, Hungarian ones. What are these Kurds?" But Bediüzzaman says, because you have a higher identity of being a Muslim, your preference should be the Kurd, the Kazakh, the African, because you have overarching identity with them. That's Islam. Not with Hungarian. Okay, genetically you are related, but not religiously you are not related. So yeah, I think Bediüzzaman was also aware Hungarians and Turks are brothers, basically. That's a bit of a history for you. Of a handful of Hungarian infidels or Europeanized Turks who have lost their religion. Since in the third matter of the 26th letter, we have shown together with the evidence the nature of native nationalism and its harms, we refer you to that and here only explain a truth which was mentioned briefly at the end of the third matter. It's as follows. Now he's going to explain why we are assuming he's talking to Turkish person. Why a Turkish person should favor a Muslim Kurd as opposed to non-Muslim Hungarian. Genetically, Hungarian is his blood brother. Kurd is a second degree. So he's going to explain that. But mind you, I keep repeating this. I mean, we are reading this in 2025. It's a modern age of internet and Instagram and, all we are kind of enlightened. This is happening between the two world wars. World War One just finished, 1918. World War Two is about to start. This is happening in 1930, 1932. So it's bang in the middle. You can imagine the political climate of Europe at that time. I always find this, it's ahead of its time. So here is the explanation. I say to those pseudo patriotic, pseudo is an expression that I really like. Pseudo something means it is not the thing, but it is as if. For example, I'm a physicist. You keep hearing this every lesson. I'm a scientist. I deal with real science stuff. And there are also some charlatans. They do stuff that sounds and looks like science, but it is not science, it's just rubbish. That is pseudoscience. So you have patriots, you got pseudo patriots. Fake, not real. It's a pretend patriotism. I say to those pseudo patriotic, irreligious deviants who hide under the veil of Turkism and in reality are enemies of the Turks. Oh, how come? Let's see. I am closely and truly connected by means of an eternal, true brotherhood with the nation of Islam, with the believers of this country who are called Turks. On account of Islam, I have a proud and partial love for the sons of this land, who for close on 1,000 years victoriously carried the banner of the Quran to every corner of the world. As for you, you pseudo patriotic imposters. I mean, Bediüzzaman is not shy of his words. He calls them pseudo patriotic imposters. You possess, in a way that will make you forget the true national pride of the Turks, a metaphorical racial temporary and hateful brotherhood. I ask you, does the Turkish nation consist only of heedless and lustful youths between the ages of 20 and 40? And is what is beneficial for them and will serve them as demanded by nationalist patriotism, a European education which will only increase their heedlessness, accustom them to immorality, and encourage them in what is forbidden? Is it to amuse them temporarily and so make them weep in old age? If nationalist patriotism consists of this, and this is progress and the happiness of life, yes, if you are a Turkist and nationalist like that, I flee from such Turkism. And you can flee from me too. If you have even a jot of patriotism, intelligence, and fairness, consider the following divisions of society and give me an answer. Is it like this? The sons of this land, known as the Turkish nation, consist of six parts. So he's going to split Turkishness into six categories. The first part of Turks are the righteous and the pious. The second are the sick and those stricken by disaster. The third are the elderly. The fourth are the children. The fifth are the poor and the weak. And the sixth are the young. So you got these community groups. Are the first five groups not Turks? Do they have no share of nationalist patriotism? Is it nationalist patriotism to vex those five groups, spoil their pleasure in life, and destroy those things that console them in order to give drunken enjoyment to the sixth group? Or is it enmity towards the nation? According to the rule, the word is with the majority. That which harms the majority is inimical, not friendly. So, not you cannot put everybody in the same sack and throw them out. There are six groups. Okay, yes, some of them are trendy. They want to do parties, pretend to be very, uh, European and enjoy life. But what about the other five groups? You got poor people, sick people, elderly people, children. These people, they also need consolation, teselli. How are you going to make this poor old people living in a village is gonna be happy and consoled with your music and dance and party and drink? No, it's not gonna make him happy. So, okay, you want to promote one way of life, acceptable. You can promote your way of life, but you cannot do that at the expense of remaining five groups of people. I ask you, I'll just give you a bit of a context. I'm sure you are all aware of this bit of history, but in case you have uh, missed it, remember this piece was written like 100 years ago. That actually coincides with the establishment of Turkish Republic, 1923. Before that, it was Ottoman Empire. Empire lost the war at the end of the First World War and collapsed. And only small country, Republic, was established. That's 1923. The founders, they thought, look, the previous model didn't work. Well, it lasted 600 years, but historically, empires are like human beings. They're born, they grow, they get old, and they die. You got Dutch Empire, you got British Empire, you got American Empire, now you got Chinese Empire. I don't know why people are getting upset about this. This is the reality. So you expect everything born, raise, get old, and die, except the empires and the states. Yeah, sometimes things go up and down. Not many people know this. New York was called New Amsterdam. It was Dutch. So Indonesia was Dutch. Suriname, everywhere. It was the Dutch Empire. Holland, it was number one. They fell, then British Empire popped up. They were the superpower. Then they fell, then American Empire popped up in a Western context. Similarly, Ottoman Empire, yes, well done, lasted 600 years, but died. So the people, new people, set up the republic. They want to try something different. They said, let's look who has done well and we model them. So they picked up recent European republics, France in particular, secular, religion and state separated. Idea is, well, I mean, we can agree or disagree, but they picked up what Nursi calls aggressive secularism. Secularism may well be a good idea. You can separate state and religion, and people can practice whatever they want to practice, and state is neutral, secular. But the founders of the new republic, they were quite aggressive. They said, look, we have to force feed this European way of life to modernize, which is pretty questionable. Is it modernizing, giving people that way of life? Is it modern necessarily? I don't know. I disagree. But at that time, they said we should push out religion completely and we should take these Turks and make them like the French, very modern, very, you know, irreligious, basically. And the struggle was quite nasty. You have this empire culture where you had your turban and your Muslim attire and beard. Even though you were not a practicing Muslim, it was a culture. People had beards, people had the head gear. But the Republic wanted to eradicate all of them. You know, they even hung people for refusing to put a hat instead of the Islamic turban on the head. That was quite nasty. And one way they were trying to promote this was saying, look, you Turk, you're superior, you have to adopt this new way of life and be modern, part of Western civilization. Nursi says, okay, one sixth may accept this. Even today, some people, I see many people in Europe, they like the nightlife, they like drinking, they like partying, they don't want any commitment. Fine. I mean, in every nation, one sixth may choose that way of life. It is fine. But forcing that way of life onto everybody is not fair because not everybody needs that. Not everybody wants to drink and party. No, these people are old, they are lonely, they are sick, they are poor. They need faith, connection with God as a consolation. You cannot claim to be patriotic by depriving 5/6 of your nation because you think there is one queue, I'm gonna force feed this queue to everybody. Okay, so let's carry on. I ask you, is the greatest benefit of the believers and the pious, the first group, to be found in a European type civilization? Or is it to be found in thinking of eternal happiness through the truth of belief, in traveling the way of truth for which they are most desirous, and in finding a true solace? Even this applies to, British society where I live. Okay, we got very liberal. In Britain, we are modern, if I may say that. Friday night, Saturday night, you go to nightclubs and bars and pubs. People are partying and drinking. But in reality, that's only a very small proportion of society. In my neighborhood, there are old people. They cannot have solace by going to the nightclub. They need something else. They need faith. They need God in their life. You tell them, look, this life is a test. We are all here temporarily. When we die, we are gonna get reward. There is an eternal life. And trust me, anyone, Christian, even non-believers, when you talk like this, that's a solace. They say, well, I don't believe in God or anything, but what you say is quite soothing. I heard this so many times. I mean, you should give them solace and consolation, teselli. And Bediüzzaman highlights this. It is it is not only applicable to Turks at that time. It is even today applicable to everybody. Everybody has different needs. You cannot force feed the same remedy to everybody. Or is it to be found? Okay. The way the misguided and bogus patriots like you have taken extinguishes the spiritual light of the pious people of belief, destroys their true consolation, and show death to be eternal nothingness, and the grave to be the door to everlasting separation. Are the benefits the disaster stricken, the sick, and those who have despaired of life, who form the second group to be found in the way of a European type irreligious civilization? For those unfortunates who want a light, a solace, they want a reward in return for the calamities they have suffered. They want to take their revenge on those who have oppressed them. They want to repulse the terrors at the door of the grave, which they are approaching. Through their false patriotism, people like you plunge a needle into their hearts of those unhappy victims of disaster who are much in need of compassion, soothing and healing, and deserving of them. You hit them over the head, you mercilessly destroy all their hopes. This is basically uh, what atheism offers. I mean, it's my specialty. So when I did my PhD in Risale-i Nur, I focused on atheism and theism, how Bediüzzaman argues for the existence of God. I look, okay, I'm a researcher, so I'm looking at it objectively. As a human being, what do they offer? I look at atheism. They say you live once, when you die, you are worm food. You just get recycled. That's it. Enjoy, have party, drink, have fun. This is what they offer. Atheism. means there is no God. So everything is what you see is what you get. This is what they offer. And I look at theism, people who say there is God. I say, okay, what do they offer? They say, okay, life is unfair, life is short, there are diseases and calamities and tribulations. But when you die, it is the beginning of eternal life and you get rewarded. If you have done badly, you get punished. But try to be a good person, you're going to get a reward. And I'm just thinking, I think I'm going to take this one because this is more soothing. And trust me, not everybody is 18. Not everybody is interested in worldly pleasures and enjoyment. People do need spiritual consolation, teselli. I mean, this is what great majority of people feel like. So you cannot say, "Oh, okay, we are secular, we don't believe in God." Okay, if you don't, fine. You go take that route. But you shouldn't deprive other people and take this away from them because that's what they need. They don't need money. They can't eat anything. They are old, they are sick, and they know they're gonna die soon. So they need faith, they need God in their life. So the elderly, the third group forms a third. They are approaching the grave, drawing close to death, growing distant from the world, coming close to the hereafter. Are there benefits, lights, and consolation to be found in listening to the cruel adventures of tyrant like Hulagu and Cengiz? These are the big Turkish Mongolian kings. You tell them how great Genghis Khan, occupied entire Europe and Hulagu had a war in. This is not a consolation. This is like Tolkien's story. They need consolation for the hereafter. So you cannot just sit down and tell them their, ancestors' bravery story. It's not a consolation. Do they have a place in your modern type movements which make the hereafter forgotten, bind a person to the world, are without result, and have the meaning of decline while being superficially progress? Is the light of the hereafter to be found in the cinema? So are you going to invite this old man to the bar, to the nightclub, to foam parties, cinema, entertain? No. Common sense. Is the light of the hereafter to be found in the cinema? Is true solace to be found in the theater? If nationalist patriotism is in effect to slaughter them with an immaterial knife and give them the idea that you are being impelled towards everlasting nothingness. This is what atheism tells. You die, that's it. The movie is over. And to transform the grave, which they consider to be the gate of mercy, into the dragon's mouth, and to breathe in their ears, you too will enter there. If, while these unhappy elderly people want respect from patriotism, this is what it consists of. I seek refuge with God 100,000 times from such patriotism. This is not being nice to your people. This is not being patriotic to your people. The fourth group, children. They want kindness from nationalist patriotism. They await compassion. Also, in respect of their weakness, impotence, and powerlessness, their spirits may expand through knowing a compassionate and powerful Creator. Their abilities may unfold in a happy manner. If instilled with the reliance on God that spring from belief, and with the submission of Islam, that may withstand the awesome fears and worldly situations of the future. These innocents may look eagerly to life. Will this be achieved by teaching them things about the progress of civilization, with which they have little connection, and the principles of lightless materialist philosophy, which destroys their morale and extinguishes their spirit? He's a child. He doesn't understand any of those. You should give him what he needs mentally and psychologically. If man consisted only of an animal body and he had no mind in his head, perhaps these European principles may, which you fancifully call civilized education and national education, could have afforded these innocent children some worldly benefit in the form of temporary childish amusement. Since they will be cast onto the surging tumult of life, and since they are human beings, they will certainly have far reaching desire in their small hearts, and large goals will be born in their little heads. Since the reality is thus, compassion requires that, in the face of their infinite want and impotence, an extremely powerful support and inexhaustible place of recourse are placed in their hearts, and these are belief in God and belief in the hereafter. Imagine a child, you are cutting him off from religion, God, and faith, and he sees his grandfather dying, grandma getting sick, father, and imagine the psychology of that child. Whereas if you teach this child through faith, and he said he knows we are here temporarily, once we die, once people are dead, they don't disappear, they are in another world where they stay eternally. So they say, yes, my grandpa died, but probably he's going to go to paradise. He was a nice person. You see the consolation that children get. That's why it's pretty important to teach children religion at an early age, because it is quite soothing and consoling. Otherwise, they just go weird. I have seen a lot of those. Okay, this is the Risale-i Nur circle. I mean, we are more or less believing in the same thing and practicing the same things. But I've been living in Britain for, I don't know, 26 years, mixed with a lot of secular people, people without faith. It is sad, honestly. I met young, old people going to parties, people are terminally ill. I just have seen with my own eyes how sad it is to cut people from this massive consolation of Iman. It is a consolation, it's a teselli, consolation. It is a solace, it is soothing. But, under the name of modernism, you just deprive people from that enormous benefit. Not for the hereafter only, but also in this life. They are more resilient. They can endure pain and suffering better because they know there is gonna be eternal reward at the end of that. So it is very unfair for children too. We're gonna raise modern children. We're gonna raise secular children. No, they're gonna go funny. They're gonna weird in the head. I've seen them because in this country it is quite secular. So you go your way. It sounds interesting at first, but no, it comes with lots of psychological, very weird issues I don't want to go into. So, religion, Iman, faith is a great consolation for at least five, six of population. Some people they are young, they want to do bungee jumping, scuba diving, partying, and drinking all day, all night. But once they pass certain age, but they're not interested. It otherwise means slaughtering those wretched innocents with the drunkenness of nationalist patriotism, like a crazy mother slaughtering her child with a knife. It is a savage cruelty and wrong, like pulling out their brains and hearts and making them eat them to nourish their bodies. It's unfair on those children. What about the poor and the weak? The poor who became, because of their poverty, suffer greatly at the heavy burdens of life, and the weak who are grieved at life's awesome upheavals, do they receive no share from nationalist patriotism? Is it to be found in the movements you have instituted under the name of European style, unveiled pharaoh like civilization, which only increase their despair and suffering? They don't have any of those. They can't afford food. They can't afford a car. They don't have money. So what about them? Okay, you are a patriot, but you're making, especially in Britain, I think we compare, yeah, contrary to what you think, poverty is very prevalent in Britain. You think, oh, it's the biggest economy, fourth largest in the world. Trust me, it is a poor country. You cannot believe in your eyes. Places I see, I'm just like, is this Britain? This is shocking. Beggars everywhere. People very poor. They are shivering. They can't even afford the energy. I mean, they can't even warm up their homes. A lot of poor people. You tell them, oh, have a party, free. The man has no money. Very poor. Uh, the salve for the wound of indigence may be found in the sacred pharmacy of Islam, not in the idea of racialism. The weak receive no strength and resistance from the philosophy of naturalism, which is dark, lacks consciousness, and is bound to chance. They may receive them from Islamic zeal and the sacred nationhood of Islam. So the final group, the sixth group, the youth. If the youth of these young people had been perpetual, you're not going to be young forever. The wine you have given them to drink through negative nationalism would have had some temporary benefits and use. But when they painfully come to their senses as they advance in years, as they get old, when they awaken from the sweet sleep in the morning of old age, the distressed and pleasurable drunkenness of youth will make them weep, and the passing of their pleasant dream will cause them much grief. It will make them exclaim, alas, both my youth has gone and my life has departed, and I am approaching the grave bankrupt. If only I had used my head. Is the share of nationalist patriotism for this group to enjoy themselves briefly and temporarily, and to be made to weep regretfully for a very long time? Or is their worldly happiness and pleasure in life to be found in making their fleeting youth permanent through worship and by sending them fine, sweet bounty, not on the way of dissipation, but on the straight path in the form of offering thanks, so as to gain eternal youth in the realm of bliss? You say, if you possess even a grain of intelligence. So I'll wrap it up. So you can always go ahead and finish the remaining parts. But what I find fascinating, I'll just say this and finish. Bediüzzaman gives a fantastic, well-structured response, even to a challenge saying, "Ah, you're Kurdish, they are Turkish, they are better." It is a racism question. But Nursi builds a fantastic argument of six categories of people, how they need Iman, and why giving them secular, earthly offering is very unfair to them. So it is quite fascinating. responding to racism and nationalism with this beautiful structure. I'll wrap this up here. This was the fourth satanic stratagem. We're gonna have the next one in the month of January, inshallah. Thanks for your time. I'll see you in the new year, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum.
Aleykümselam. Teacher Hakan, thank you very much.
Abi,
Evet.
Ocak ayının konusunu hemen atıyorum size, İngilizcesini.
Tamam,
İnşallah onu
hatırlayacağım
da
inşallah.
kalender alırsak.
Tamam, olur inşallah.
Abi, saygılar sunuyorum.
Teşekkür
Hayırlı
ediyorum.
akşamlar.
Allah'a emanet olun.
Vesselam.
Allah razı olsun. Çok sağ olasınız. Evet, Bayram Hocam hoş geldiniz. Mikrofonunuz açık değil mi? Şimdi açacağım size. Pardon. Buyurun,
Mikrofonu
mikrofonunuzu
açık.
açın.
Ha, şimdi oldu.
Evet, hocam buyurun, hatim duası için sizdeyiz.
Evet. Euzu billahi mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kul huvallahu ehad. Allahu samed. لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا